Hello. I want to do a little sample here of Google searching because I'm finding it a little puzzling, and I thought I'd record this just because if I tried to describe it, I'm afraid that, you know, people might not understand what I mean. So I'm doing some research on original D&D, and I'm looking for monsters that are affected by daylight. So I'm just looking for a list if I can find one. But what I find puzzling is when I put in my search criteria, how Google actually interprets this and spits out its results. So what I'm doing here is OD&D, monsters plus daylight. The plus means that the result must include the word daylight or it shouldn't show up in this list. Now, for whatever reason, and it's not understandable to me, it says there are no results found with OD&D, monsters, and daylight. But that's not true because if I look at, for example, this one, and I look for daylight, well, it's there. It shows up in all these places. If I look for OD&D, it's there. It shows up in all these places. If I look for monsters, they're there, and it shows up in all these places. So why is Google saying there are no results found for this search? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Not only that, but it then goes on to say that daylight is missing from this search. It's missing from this search, but apparently it's included in this one. So why does this one show up further down the list from the ones where it says it's missing? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I'm saying I really only actually care the most about the word daylight. So why is it showing me results that exclude daylight before the other results? Hello? Yeah, okay, but furthermore, let's go into this one. And just out of curiosity, although it says daylight doesn't exist in this one, and we look, and okay, but if we go to this one, and we look for daylight, why, it's actually, I believe daylight is in this list somewhere. I thought it was, because I saw it before. Let's go back to the top and see if we can find it. Daylight. There it is. It shows up numerous times in this tametick.com D&D post. But over here, in the results, it says the tametick.com D&D result is missing the word daylight. But we just saw that that's wrong. It isn't missing the word daylight, Google. So why are you telling me it's missing daylight when it's not? So I'm just looking at this and thinking that it's broken. And of course, you might say, well, you're just looking for some trivial thing about your D&D hobby, so who cares? But the point is that's Google failing on any search. It does this all the time for every search. It's failing for everybody because it doesn't work. It gives you the wrong answer constantly. This is just one example. I finally got so fed up with it, I decided to make a video because it's not useful when it does this. And I don't think it was always behaving this way. I think maybe they updated something or some programmer changed something somewhere at some point, because I don't recall it being this bad. I mean, I've certainly seen, and had the criticism that the whole concept of Google is a flaw because the internet itself was designed so poorly that Google is required. So to me, it's like if they created the world's biggest library and they said, hey, everybody, we have the world's greatest, most humongous library. It's going to store all the knowledge of the whole world in this huge conglomerate library. But we're not going to use the Dewey Decimal System or have some stupid old-fashioned thing like a card catalog. We're just going to have everybody throw their stuff in the middle anywhere. It doesn't matter. But then we'll have a robot run around, and when you do a search, instead of giving you results that make sense, we'll give you 18,300 results, of which some may pertain, some may not have the right information in them. We don't care. And in addition, we'll even tell you incorrect information about those results, because we're Google and we can. So there you have it. That's my criticism. I think that the internet should have been designed like a library rather than a junk heap with a little robot incorrectly running around trying to get hundreds of thousands of results for you that don't make any sense. Now, of course, that said, most people go to Google, and usually, we might find what we're looking for in the first few minutes, maybe even on the first hit if you're looking for something dead obvious or it's really clear to Google what you're looking for. And we all use it that way. And then, maybe it's serving our purpose. But then again, the thing that we don't know when we do Google searches is what we're missing. We don't know if I went to look up something and I got results. I clicked on the first one, didn't pertain. I clicked on the second one, it was wrong, didn't pertain. Oh, clicked on the third. Okay, third one, fine. This is good enough. I don't have a lot of time for what I'm doing and I'm very busy, so okay, I'll use it. But what we don't know is what we're missing. We don't know if there was a website or an answer to our question that was actually perfect, that gave us the exact information we wanted, but it didn't show up in the list, so we never knew it existed. So we go ahead with our research, or we, publish something, or we give out some opinion based on our Google search without any actual assurance whatsoever that our search was in the least bit valid or produced the best or even good result. If you add on top of this Google's propensity to allow the owner's personal political opinions to filter through his entire site so that, his algorithms will, kind of exclude certain things maybe, or put them way down on the list where you probably won't bother to go look for them. That kind of thing, when you're in Google Plus and it's giving you the hot recommended and they all happen to have a little political flavor to them of one, particular person, their political opinion, that sort of thing. I mean, if you combine these two things, that the product itself, the search engine, their core product, is flawed, which this demonstrates very clearly. It's not working right. It's flawed. It's broken. If you add to that the whole internet design, the concept of this design is flawed, and Google shouldn't even be necessary. We should be able to go to the internet and look in something like the equivalent of a card catalog file on a subject or topic that we're interested in and get relevant articles or information about those topics. in a hierarchical tree where you can drill down into it and find more specifically, it should function like a useful computer. But when you go to the internet and you look up something and you get 800,000, or in this case, 18,000 results, well, that's kind of useless, because there's no way on God's green earth that we're going through 18,300 results. So it's pointless to present 18,300 results. We shouldn't even be here. We shouldn't even be in the position of having to look at something that says, oh, I found you 18,300 results in 1.22 seconds. Well, whoop-de-doo, because the results that you presented, Google, are factually incorrect. Like, for example, you're saying daylight doesn't exist in this one, but I just went and it exists. So if I believed the search results, I would have skipped over this one. So that's just wrong. And then when you composite that with the observation that the structure and design of the internet is wrong, and we add to that the political bias that gets filtered into this whole thing, then I think we're just looking at something that's really just incredibly broken. It is wrong. It's just wrong. And yet, wow, look at that. $2011, $58 billion in revenues. Why? It's a broken product. I don't know. To me, this feels like a gigantic ripoff. Now, you could say, oh, but it's free. Well, I'm going to argue with that, because if it's free, how are they making $58 billion? Billion dollars if it's free. It's not free. People who say it's free are kind of missing an essential thing. Which is this: when the product is free, you are the product. So it's not free. Stop saying we're not paying anything, so therefore, even if it's broken, you shouldn't complain, because for another matter, Google is the preeminent search engine of the world, and the other ones work, reasonably speaking, the same way. I don't know if they're as broken as Google, but they essentially work the same way. I don't know. Does anybody else see what I'm seeing with this? It doesn't, there's a lot of money being made off of a system that's so fundamentally flawed in concept and technically flawed in implementation, that also is utilizing its position in the market to create political bias in their results. When you're dealing with political topics, obviously, if I'm looking up for something about D&D, I don't expect it to produce a politically biased result. But if you look up Google political bias, you get 10 million hits in 0.6 seconds. So, and the first one is this Breitbart report, and sure, some people are going to say, oh, it's Breitbart, therefore it's evil, so you can't read that, so let's just skip over. Okay, Slashdot. I don't think that they're like Breitbart. Okay, what do they have to say? Google Research have liberal bias study finds, etc. If you go down this list, and we can go down the 10 million hits if you want. I'm not interested in doing that, but the point is that I think the construct is wrong. It's flawed, it's broken, and while it's not directly costing me money, it's actually costing. It's costing us. It's costing all of us. For one thing, all you have to do is look at that $58 billion a year and think, well, okay, so one company is sucking in $58 billion from the rest of the company, from the rest of the country, or the rest of the world, if you want to look at it that way. So Google is sucking up $58 billion a year. And, you know, but why? Why is it, you know, it's free? I don't know. It's just confusing. I find it all a little baffling. Its brokenness, the $58 billion, the bad construct. I don't know. Anyway, I just felt the need to finally put this down and give an example of what I'm talking about, because, you know, to me it just feels like there's, you know, we need a different solution. This one doesn't work. It's just wrong.